Yep. All right. So I'm still not back at work yet. Okay. And so this is going back into the storyboard. The problem with this storyboard thing that I'm trying to do is more information kind of comes in, like more pieces of the puzzle kind of, and it just makes it even more complex. And then I start to wonder, what am I doing? Like, and I start sounding like a raving madman, which I'm not. I'm totally. My last channel was way more raving like a madman than this channel. Yesterday I really went off, yelling at my audience. I'm not necessarily yelling at my audience. It's just like this. It's more of just a general, like, addressing society, my resentment to society, especially since, like, I was driven out of society at a really early age, like when I talk about the education system being an indoctrination center where all the education system is, which this is like nothing new. I mean, you guys know this, or you either do, or you either are like, yeah, in agreement that the education system is just indoctrination, or you don't, and you're like, no, that's all conspiracy theory, and you have a right to believe whatever you want, but if you agree that, like, the education system is just indoctrination, that's all it is. It's not about education at all. And I talked yesterday about how, in a sense, you kind of have two types of people, two basic types of responses to indoctrination, where you have a large group of people, who all through school, even though they knew that the majority of school, grade school, high school, even into college, is just all ridiculous bullshit. But yet, even though, you know that these assignments are bullshit and that the fucking teachers couldn't think themselves out of a paper bag, you go along with it anyways, because that's how you graduate from one grade to the next. That's how you get your diploma. That's how you get your degree. And so there's two basic responses: is to just go along with it so that you can get your diploma. But there's another less common response, which is to look at it and just acknowledge it for what it is, which is, no, this is bullshit. These assignments are not applicable in the real world. This is basically just bullshit, and I'm not doing this assignment. I know the teacher can't think themselves out of a paper bag. I know these assignments in a general way are a bunch of bullshit, and I'm not doing them. And the people whose responses is that, those are the people that end up in the principal's office and in trouble, always in trouble, and getting suspended and expelled, and then they, more often than not, are the same ones that end up in juvie and in other institutions and then spit out onto the streets because they're not conforming, and end up homeless and on drugs and in and out of jail. And those are your typical general two responses to the indoctrination system. Is you either go along with it even though you know it's bullshit in order to get your diploma and your degrees, or you look at it and just acknowledge it for what it is and say, no, I'm not doing this. Why would I do this? This is stupid. This is dumb. And then you end up in the principal's office, and then you continue to end up in the principal's office and in, in detention and and then your parents ground you, and and I just happened to be one of those people that was always in the principal's office, always in detention, always getting grounded by my parents because I wasn't going along with it, always getting suspended and expelled, and so that's what society did to me, is just rejected me, you know institutionalized. When I was 15, I was institutionalized for like 3.5 months because of all this, because I'm like, no, I'm not doing this, this is stupid, you're all stupid. And so I was rejected and rejected and rejected, and all driven, just rejected straight into the streets of abject poverty and homelessness, which is where I remained for 10 years. All growing up, I'm in the principal's office, I'm in trouble because I'm just one of those people that's like, no, this is stupid, whereas many other people are the ones that were like, even though they knew it was stupid, they went along with it anyways. And it's no judgments towards them. I'm just saying, I just happen to be one of them people who's like, no, you're dumb, this is dumb, I'm not wasting my time with this, fuck you. And then I'm in the principal's office and all this, and all my life. And then by the time I was 18, then I'm on the streets. From being in the principal's office to suspended to expelled to institutionalized to rejected and into the streets of abject poverty and homelessness, where I lived for 10 years. So that's why, like yesterday when I was ranting and raving and saying, my society is the homeless. That's the only society that I ever really knew. That's what I've always been. Is the one in the principal's office, getting suspended, getting institutionalized, getting expelled, getting constantly in trouble because I'm rejecting the indoctrination. Because some part of me knows, like, this is bullshit, and I'm not doing it. And so my whole life has been that, and so when the rejection was completed and I was literally living in the sticks and eating out of dumpsters as a result of refusing to go along with the indoctrination, and then that was my life for 10 years. Like, that was what I knew. I wasn't social with other homeless people. I was a loner, but the homeless people were the only ones that I related with because this is where we're all at, and they weren't rejecting me. They weren't trying to indoctrinate me. It was the whole society that, so I'm ranting and raving yesterday saying this is your society. And I don't mean to, but I'm just saying, like, what is going on, And, like I keep bringing up how my last channel for 6 years or more was all about homelessness. That's all it was about. Homelessness and the criminalization of homelessness and all this stuff that nobody ever talks about. It's not popular and trendy at all. But you see how it's directly tied to everything, like indoctrination? Like, people that refuse to be brainwashed end up getting in trouble. Principals' offices and getting suspended and grounded by their parents because they were refusing to get brainwashed. And so this has been my whole life. And then the very society that rejected me into the streets of abject poverty and homelessness then forced me to assimilate to this society. It's all based in brainwash, indoctrination. And what is all this stuff about brainwash and indoctrination about? It's about turning people into sheeple. That's what it's all about. You condition someone enough to do something that is stupid, even though they know it's stupid, they go along with it anyways. You condition someone to agree, to consent to that enough over time. Well, what do you think happens to them? They become sheeple, which is what they want, because sheeple are easier to control. And so it's all about control. I mean, and so, I've always identified with the feral. And society, this thing called society, always hates the feral. They're always punishing the feral. Send the feral to the principal's office. Suspend the feral for not going along with their indoctrination. Institutionalize the feral for not going along with the indoctrination. They must be mentally ill because they're not going along with this indoctrination. Don't you understand that this is what is happening? It has been. This is not new, like newsflash. Wake up, everybody. New story. This is not a new story. This has been going on all my life. This is my life story, dude. So, it reminds me of that Pink Floyd song, We Don't Need No Education. Everybody take your PCR test now. The teacher has assigned you your PCR test. If you want to graduate and get your diploma, here's your PCR test. Take your PCR test now. Well, what about the people that are like, fuck you? I'm not taking your fuck you. All those people all slip through the cracks. Richie from Boston isn't talking about those people. None of these popular trending channels are talking. All these popular trending channels, those are all the people that went along with the indoctrination. Like, okay, even though I know this is bullshit, I'm going to go along with it because I need to get my high school diploma and my college degree. And now look at me. I'm an educated Corbett report. I'm educated James Corbett. I have a master's degree in, mental masturbation. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to judge people. I'm just, poor Corbett, whatever. Who cares? Whatever. This is just an analogy. This is just kind of like me. But whatever, like, why is it that the people that have conformed and gone along to get along are the ones those are all your Styx, Hexenhammers, and Mark Dices and Richie from Boston's and Crow Houses that are all getting all this praise of accolades for what revolutionary and anti-establishment people they are. Meanwhile, the real anti-establishment people have all slipped through the cracks and disappeared into the streets of abject poverty and homelessness because they refused it. They've been a fucking anti-establishment since like the fucking first grade or something. And as a result, they ended up in the principal's office all the time and getting suspended, and then their parents institutionalizing them, and then ending up in jail and juvie and into the streets of abject poverty and homelessness. And like what the fuck do you think is going on? Are you that fucking brain dead? And then when you like I'm trying to talk about how, okay, well, you would agree that there's a sheeple agenda going on. I mean, doesn't it seem pretty obvious there's a sheeple agenda taking place here? I mean, and so the only person that would deny that would be a sheeple or an NPC. They're like, no, that's not what's happening. They don't want everybody to become sheeple and NPCs so that it's easier to control them. That's a conspiracy theory. You're a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat wearing crazy man. No, that is exactly what all this has been. I'm 50 years old. It's been going on all this whole time. And, so yeah, that's what they want, sheeple. And then couple that with this talk about the physics of things like COVID and shedding and artificial intelligence and stuff, and yes, demon possession is real. It's like a real thing. And so just see, as I do this storyboard, the more I flesh out the storyboard, the more complex it becomes. And so then, the more complex it becomes, the more information I have to look at, the more information goes up on the storyboard, and the more complicated it is to simplify this story into a way where it can be presented to the general audience, where it's palatable to the general audience, because now it's diving into physics and shit. What the fuck do I know about physics? I mean, like this shit about how all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. Like now we're getting into men who stare at goats and telepathy and like how the fuck deep is this gonna go? I'm just trying to tell the story, but the more I try to map it out so that I can piece it together and present it in a palatable format to the general audience, the more deep it goes into physics and like that movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats. Like now we're getting into it's just and then I have to stop and just like question myself, like, how far do I want to take this storyboard? Like, what in the fuck? Like, and then it just sounds crazier and crazier. I mean, I keep trying to bring up and explain how the practical side of the story that just involves, murder investigation and death threats and arson and stuff. Just that part of the story alone is unbelievable. Then when you start getting into the ethereal side of it, it has to do with physics and fucking, it's like, and like the scientific explanation of demon possession through the use of artificial intelligence and CIA black ops intelligence programs and biological fucking bioweapons and I mean, like, I don't know. So it's super crazy. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then and then I have to deal with real life on I mean, we all do. I'm not like, woe is me, but trying to do this story when, a disconcerting 6+ billion people on this planet are just struggling to get food on the table, and I happen to be one of those people. Like, who has time to try to understand and figure out and piece together a puzzle story on a demon demon possession? Like, people don't even believe demon possession is real or witchcraft or any of this stuff. Physics is even like unbelievable. That all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. Like, come on, like that those types of sciences blur the lines of reality, where you start to question everything. That's why physicists are like sound like quack nut jobs, dude. Then you start to question: is this real? Is everything a simulation? Is this flame real? What is real? What isn't? And am I just tripping? Maybe am I tripping? Maybe I've lost perspective. Like maybe there is, maybe even though it was crazy what happened with her, maybe it wasn't demon possession. Maybe that's just me taking it too far. Like, if you've ever watched Twin Peaks, I would recommend you watch the Twin Peaks series. The movie, I don't think I've ever even watched the movie Twin Peaks, but the series, and it's like fans of Twin Peaks, they all say that the series is better than the movie. So I bypassed watching the movie and just watched the series. I own the series Twin Peaks. That's what this storyboard is becoming and has become. Like, Twin Peaks is several hours. And the irony of Twin Peaks is the story of Twin Peaks is parallel in many ways to my storyboard, which makes me think that Twin Peaks is based on a person's experience, even though Twin Peaks isn't branded as based on a true story. When you watch the Twin Peaks series, like it parallels in many ways my storyboard, dude. And so And so, like, it gets with my storyboard, it gets so ridiculous where it's to the point where I don't know that, consolidating my storyboard down to a 2 hour narrative or reenactment is going to do it any justice. Like, I'm talking about like doing a series that's similar to Twin Peaks, where you have Twin Peaks. How many hours is Twin Peaks? It's got to be like 15 hours or more. But it's very good. I mean, in my opinion, like, I'm a Twin Peaks fan. I love Twin Peaks. It's a fucking great show. I would recommend anybody who's into David Lynch kind of stuff, Twin Peaks, and also, like, to get a better understanding of the storyboard, that I'm trying to do, watch Twin Peaks. I mean, it's the same thing. And because it parallels so much of my storyboard that is based on an experience that happened to me 2 years ago, I believe that Twin Peaks and many other film like that is really truly is based on an experience someone like me had. They just don't say it. It doesn't say this is based on a true story, but like, art, like I brought up yesterday and bring up sometimes, art imitates life. Like the movie They Live. The film They Live is a great example of art imitating life. The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, another great example of art imitating life. And why is that? Why does art imitate life? It is because these films are based on people's real experiences, and the only way to present their experiences to an audience in a palatable format to the general audience is just to present it as some sci-fi story or a song. That's why I love music and film, because a lot of times the only way that the audience is going to be palatable to the general audience is through art. So instead of saying, this is based on a true story and blah, 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 it's like, it's not, your general audience is not going to receive it. And the only way they're going to receive it is you just say, this is just some sci-fi story. That's all. This is just a song. This is just a rock and roll album, when really art imitates life. Like, the art is what is where a lot of truth is. And so this storyboard, like Twin Peaks, this storyboard is basically like Twin Peaks, but it's based on my real experience. And it is not coincidence that my storyboard parallels in so many ways Twin Peaks. It's not coincidence. It's because Twin Peaks really was based on someone's experience. And it was just presented in an art form. Because if they were to take Twin Peaks and say this is based on true events, it would be less likely to be palatable to the general audience. They'd be like, after watching a couple episodes, they'd be like, this ain't based in, this is bullshit, and they just wouldn't watch it. And see, it's not so much about selling a product for an artist. A true artist, it's not about selling a product, it's about getting a story out. Because when a story is so fucking insane that nobody's going to believe it, well, if a true story is so insane that nobody's going to believe it, but I mean, that's an important story. You want the story to get out. You don't care about making money or getting any acknowledgement. It's because the story is so fucking insane. This true event story is so insane that there's got to be a way to get it out to people somehow. But because it's so unbelievable, the only way to present it to a general audience in a palatable format is to tell them this isn't a true story. It's just a sci-fi fantasy, blah, blah, blah. So my storyboard is like very parallel to, what's his name? David Lynch's TV series called Twin Peaks. And if you haven't seen it, I would suggest you watch it, especially if you're into Frank Zappa and shit like this. Oh my god, dude! Twin Peaks is a really insane thing, but I'm telling you, dude, because it parallels so much my experience. It's based in someone's experience where they saw a bunch of crazy shit, and it's so unexplainable and so unbelievable that the only way to get the story out is just to say, hey, check out this sci-fi TV series. It's called The X-Files, or it's called Twin Peaks, or whatever. You know? And so that's kind of what I'm doing with the story. And I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? Because it's like become more complex. Like just in the last 5 days or less, you know, finding out about Pokemon, even though I knew about Pokemon, but now it's totally confirmed. And dude, this is why the story is so complex. Like, dude, Pokemon Go is a big part of my story. Pokemon Go is what my Psycho X was using like a year before the event happened. And Pokemon Go is how she met all of these self-proclaimed witches. And she started meeting up with them once a week to just for Pokemon Go. And the Corbett Report just put out that report about how it has been confirmed. It's no longer conspiracy theory. Pokemon Go is the technology they're using to map you, to develop artificial intelligence avatars for every single one of us. And you couple that with what the physicist was saying, that I just found that interview like a day prior, where he says that's how this is what all of this is. You have an artificial intelligence avatar that is learning you through all of this technology with Google, Keyhole, Pokemon Go, and it's all Black Ops shit to map everything about you. And the AI avatar program is learning you through surveillance, through all this Google surveillance and Keyhole surveillance, and you know, like this shit just gets so deep. And that these avatars can learn, these AI avatars can learn, like predict you through surveillance, through years of Google surveillance. And dude, like she was totally obsessed with Pokemon. And all of those that whole witch cult that she got involved with were all obsessed with Pokemon. This is all just coincidence, right? Just more coincidence. So see how complex this is. It's ridiculous. I'm going to keep doing it, but I'm talking, this is like in a sense, it's beyond Twin Peaks, because Twin Peaks is, probably more like 20 hours. And I've got well over 20 hours, but this is my storyboard so that I can condense it down to be able to present it in a palatable format for the general audience. But I think if I ever do finish the product, it's not going to be like a 2-hour narrative or a 2-hour movie. It's going to be like a 20-hour TV series type, like David Lynch TV series like Twin Peaks. Because it just won't stop. It just doesn't stop. I've been looking at this since it happened 2 years ago. And it induced a lot of trauma, so I wasn't able to process everything. That's why, I'm only coming to these realizations much later, like 2 years later. Now I'm connecting the dots on Pokemon and AI and all this other stuff. Even though, a year prior, I knew there was some connection. But now it's all becoming clearer and clearer, and more information is coming out. Like, they just dropped the confirmation of Pokemon Go being a fucking CIA fucking, fucking basically MK Ultra mind control project is what Pokemon Go is, dude. They just dropped that. That was just exposed. It's like confirmed, no longer conspiracy theory. Well, so it's coincidence that Pokemon Go was a massive component of the whole event that happened to me, where that's what it was all about, dude. So now I have to go back and go into a deep dive and go into a deep explanation of her involvement with Pokemon Go during that whole year prior to the event. So that's like pre-event. Pokemon Go is like pre-event. Pokemon Go is a massive component that led up to the event with the black-eyed demon and the fire and death threats and the murder and fucking blah blah blah, all that shit. This is like Twin Peaks-esque, peak Twin Peaks-esque fucking phenomena here. So whatever, dude.